Hello, I'm Rolando, and I'm turning 80 this year. It's been 20 years since I retired from work, and I've been looking for ways to keep my mind active and engaged. Writing poems and short stories was a hobby I enjoyed during my college years, and I've recently decided to pick it up again. I'm excited to share one of my recent creations with you, a short story about love and betrayal. I hope you enjoy it. Johnny had been a restless soul, always chasing the next big thrill, never staying in one place for too long. He'd left a trail of broken hearts and broken promises in his wake, and Wilma was just another name on that long list. Or so he thought. But Wilma was different. She was the sunshine that brightened up his darkest days, the calm in every storm. She'd seen the real Johnny, the one he hid from the world, and she loved him for it. She'd waited patiently for him to come to his senses, to realize that he didn't need to run anymore. And finally, it seemed, Johnny had found his way. He was tired of the empty nights, the hollow victories, and the aching loneliness. He was tired of being a fool, and he knew that Wilma was the one who could save him. As he sat on the edge of his bed, packing up his belongings, he couldn't help but think of Wilma. He remembered the way she'd smile, the way her eyes sparkled, and the way she'd laugh at his silly jokes. He remembered the way she'd hold his hand, the way she'd listen to him, and the way she'd make him feel like he was home. He knew he didn't deserve her, but he was too selfish to care. He wanted her, and he was willing to do whatever it took to make her his. "I'm coming home to stay," he whispered to himself, echoing the words he'd sing on the midnight train tomorrow. He looked at the ticket in his hand, feeling a sense of excitement and nervousness. What if Wilma didn't want him back? What if she'd moved on? What if? What if? What if? He pushed the doubts aside and focused on the one thing that mattered, Wilma. As the train rumbled into the station, Johnny took a deep breath and boarded. He found his seat, closed his eyes, and let the rhythm of the wheels on the tracks soothe his racing heart. "I'm stuck on you," he whispered, a smile spreading across his face. "I'm stuck on you, Wilma, and I don't want to be free." The train pulled out of the station, and Johnny felt a sense of peace wash over him. He was going home, and this time, he wasn't going to let Wilma go. As the sun rose the next morning, Johnny stepped off the train and onto the platform. Wilma was waiting for him, a radiant smile on her face and open arms. "Guess I'm on my way," Johnny said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Mighty glad you stayed," Wilma replied, her eyes shining with tears. And as they embraced, Johnny knew that he'd finally found his way home. Lying in their bed, wrapped in each other's arms, talking about the past. They were reminiscing about the good old days, the days when life was simple and love was new. "You remember those days in September?" Johnny asked, a faraway look in his eyes. Wilma nodded, a smile on her face. "When life was slow and oh, so mellow," she whispered. Johnny chuckled. "And the grass was green and the grain was yellow," he added. They both laughed, remembering the poem they'd read together, the one that captured the essence of their love. "You were a tender and callow fellow back then," Wilma teased, poking Johnny's chest. He grinned. "And you were the one who saw past all that, who saw the real me." Wilma's eyes softened. "I saw the ember of love, the one that was about to billow." As they talked, the room grew quiet, and the only sound was the crackling of the fire in the fireplace. Outside, the snow was falling gently, casting a serene silence over the world. Deep in December, they were grateful for the memories they'd made, for the love that had grown stronger with each passing day. "It's nice to remember," Johnny said, his voice low and husky. Wilma nodded, snuggling closer. Although you yearn, the snow will follow. They lay there in silence, watching the flames dance, their hearts filled with the warmth of love and memories. "The fire of September that made us mellow," Johnny whispered, his eyes closing. "Deep in December, our hearts should remember," Wilma finished, her voice barely above a whisper. As they drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the quiet of the night, they knew that their love would endure, a flame that would burn bright and true, no matter the season. Johnny and Wilma's wedding day was a beautiful, sunny day in June. They stood before their closest friends and family, promising to love and cherish each other, in sickness and in health, till death do they part. The simplicity of the ceremony only added to the sweetness of the moment as they exchanged vows and rings, sealing their love forever. The first 2 years of their marriage were a blissful blur of laughter, adventures, and quiet nights in. They were like any other married couple, navigating the ups and downs of life, but with a love that only grew stronger with each passing day. But as time went on, Wilma began to notice a change in Johnny. He seemed distant, preoccupied, and his attention was elsewhere. She brushed it off as work stress or fatigue, but as the days turned into weeks, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That something turned out to be a lot more than she could have ever imagined. One day, while Johnny was in the bathroom, his cell phone rang on their nightstand. Thinking it was just a message from his family, Wilma picked it up, her heart sinking with every passing second. The message was from his ex-girlfriend, asking when they would meet again. Wilma's face paled as she scrolled through the phone, her eyes widening in horror. The affair had been going on for 6 months, behind her back, behind their marriage. Trembling, she sat on the bedside, tears streaming down her face. Johnny walked out of the bathroom, his eyes meeting hers, and he knew he was caught. Wilma's voice shook as she spoke. "I trusted you." She looked at him, her eyes burning with a fire he had never seen before. "Tell me her name. I want to know. The way she looks and where you go. I need to see her face. I need to understand why you and I should come to an end." The words poured out of her, a mix of anger, sadness. "Tell me, I want to hear, who broke my faith in all these years? Who lays with you at night when I'm here all alone, remembering when I was your own? I'll let you go, I'll let you fly, now that I've found yours is a broken vow." Johnny stood frozen, his eyes filled with regret, as Wilma's words pierced his heart like a dagger. He knew he had hurt her, and he didn't know how to fix it. Johnny stood frozen, his eyes filled with regret, as Wilma's words pierced his heart like a dagger. He knew he had hurt her, and he didn't know how to fix it. The love they had built together, the love they had promised to cherish, was now shattered, like broken glass on the floor. Johnny fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face as he pleaded with Wilma. "Please, baby, I'm sorry. I know I messed up, but she's nothing compared to you. You're the one I love, the one I've always loved. It was just a stupid mistake, an affair that meant nothing. I'll end it, I promise. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right." He sobbed, his body shaking with emotion, as he begged Wilma to forgive him. But Wilma just stood there, her eyes cold and hard, her face set in a mask of anger and hurt. "You're pathetic," she spat, her voice dripping with disdain. "You think a few tears and promises are going to make it all go away? You betrayed me, Johnny. You broke our trust, our love, our everything." With a calmness that belied her inner turmoil, Wilma pulled out a suitcase and began to fill it with her essentials. Johnny watched, frozen, as she packed her bags and left their rented apartment without looking back. The drive was a blur, her mind numb with pain and anger. She stopped at a cheap motel, checked in, and lay on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. The tears came later, when the numbness wore off and the reality of her situation hit her like a ton of bricks. The next morning, she woke up to the sound of her phone ringing. She ignored it, knowing it was probably Johnny. Instead, she opened her laptop and transferred half of the balance of their joint account to her personal account, a small measure of revenge, but it was something. Her phone kept ringing, 20 missed calls, 10 voicemails, but she didn't answer. She blocked his number, unable to bear the thought of hearing his voice, of being tempted to forgive him. She stayed in the hotel for 3 more days of planning her future, of rediscovering herself, and the woman she used to be before Johnny came into her life. She was determined to move on, to heal, and to find happiness again, without him. Wilma stood on the beach, the warm sand between her toes, as she gazed out at the ocean. She had been in Florida for weeks now, trying to escape the pain of Johnny's betrayal. But it seemed like no matter how far she ran, she couldn't shake the feelings she still had for him. The sound of her phone ringing broke the silence, and she sighed, wondering who it could be. "Hello, Jenna," she said, trying to sound casual. "Wilma, please don't hang up," Jenna said, her voice urgent. "Johnny is right here with me, and he's really dying to talk to you." Wilma's heart skipped a beat at the mention of his name. She wasn't ready to talk to him, but a part of her wanted to hear what he had to say. "Okay," she said finally.
There was a pause, and then Johnny's voice came on the line.
"Wilma, you say it's over. I say we've just begun. 'Cause it ain't forever until our lives are done."
Wilma's eyes closed as she listened to his words, her heart aching with every syllable. She had heard these words before, and they had meant everything to her. But now, they just sounded hollow. "I know I did some things that I never should. I'd undo them if I could. I'd turn my life around for you," Johnny continued, his voice cracking with emotion. "Anything you'd ask me to. Just tell me, what must I do to make you want to stay, and take the hurt away, and leave it all to yesterday?" Wilma's grip on the phone tightened as she listened to his plea. She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that he was truly sorry and that he would change. But the fear of getting hurt again held her back. "Johnny, I won't close the door, but I need space for the meantime," she said finally, her voice firm. "Goodbye for now." She hung up the phone, feeling a mix of emotions. Part of her wanted to forgive him, to take him back and try to make things work. But another part of her was scared of getting hurt again, scared of losing herself again. As she stood there, the ocean waves crashing against the shore, Wilma knew that she had to prioritize herself, had to focus on healing and moving forward. She took a deep breath, let go of the past, and stepped forward, into the unknown. Johnny stood frozen, the phone still clenched in his hand, as he listened to the sound of the dial tone. Wilma's words echoed in his mind, "I need space for the meantime." He knew he couldn't blame her, not after what he had done. As the evening sky turned dim and cold, like the emptiness inside his soul, Johnny felt the weight of his mistakes bearing down on him. He had taken Wilma for granted, and now he was paying the price. Johnny's eyes closed, and he was transported back to the memories of their time together. He remembered the way Wilma would laugh, the way her eyes would sparkle in the sunlight. He remembered the way she would make him feel like he was home. As the night wore on, Johnny couldn't shake the feeling of loss, of emptiness. He had hurt the one person he loved most, and he didn't know if he could ever get her back. Johnny's heart ached with every word, every memory. He knew he had to make things right, had to find a way to win Wilma back.
But for now, he was stuck in the pain of his own making.
Johnny made a promise to himself, to Wilma, and to their love. He would do whatever it took to make things right, to bring her back into his arms. We may no longer be as one, but you will never fade away. In the memories that remain, you will always stay. A day after, Wilma called back Jenna and requested her not to reveal her whereabouts. Wilma threw herself into her work, trying to distract herself from the pain of Johnny's betrayal.
She spent her days working with clients, building her business, and making new friends in Florida.
She loved the sunshine, the beaches, and the laid-back vibe of the city. As the weeks went by, Wilma started to feel a sense of normalcy, a sense of healing. She was starting to rebuild her life, to rediscover who she was outside of her relationship with Johnny. But one morning, as she was getting dressed, she felt a wave of fatigue wash over her. She brushed it off as stress, but it happened again the next day, and the next. Concerned, she decided to schedule a doctor's appointment. The doctor's words hit her like a ton of bricks. "You're 2 months pregnant, Wilma." Wilma's mind reeled. Pregnant? She hadn't even thought about that possibility. She was on the pill, and they had been careful. But it seemed that fate had other plans. The following days were a blur of emotions. Wilma couldn't decide what to do, whether to tell Johnny or not. Part of her wanted to, part of her didn't. She kept replaying the memories of his betrayal, the heartache he had put her through. No, she finally decided, I won't tell him. She couldn't bear the thought of him being a part of her life again, not after what he had done. She would raise the baby on her own, just like she was rebuilding her life on her own. Wilma kept her secret locked away, not even telling Jenna, their mutual friend. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to move on, to create a new life for herself and her baby. As she walked out of the doctor's office, Wilma felt a sense of resolve. She was no longer just Wilma, the heartbroken ex-girl. She was Wilma, a strong, capable woman, ready to take on the world and her future head-on.
How soon the flame of love can die? How soon good night becomes goodbye?